Peace to the family. If you can hear me, press 1. Let me know that you can hear me so I can begin. I appreciate that. So if you can hear me, press 1. They're doing some construction outside, but I'm hoping that you can hear me. So I'm waiting to see if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Press 1. Put 1 in the chat so I can begin. Great. My good brother Rakim, 777. My brother from another mother. Peace to you. Thank you, lovely. Thank you, lovely name. Lovely. Okay, so recently on a channel, I'm not going to mention the channel, uh, they have had done 3 shows largely attacking Dr. Francis Cress Wilson. And in that, they began attacking Dr. John Henrik Clarke. And critique is okay as long as it's in good faith and well founded. I think that we all know that. Um, but as a student of Dr. John Henry Clarke, which I am, somebody who's actually worked uh, in my capacity uh, 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 for him for about 10 years. I met Dr. Clarke when he was 70 something, and he in this course of time period, I got to really know him personally. Not like a lot of people who might have been just students of his in the classroom. I traveled with him to Africa in 1986. Um, I bought in books for his library. When his eyesight was failing, me and my former wife uh, made a point of picking him up, sometimes in turns, if I couldn't make it or she couldn't make it, and taking him home. And then in the later part of his life, when his eyesight was really gone, I was a reader for him as he was compiling his last works, African World Revolution. Um, Dr. John Henry Clarke with Dr. Leonard Jeffries helped me get my first job at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture of the New York Public Library, where Dr. Clarke got his start. And he helped with Dr. Leonard Jeffries convince the uh, head of the Schomburg, Dr. Howard Dotson, to let me work there, first as an intern and then later in information systems and whatever the library needed. For about 4 years, almost everything that came out of the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture to the public, uh, I typeset for them as part of my job capacity. For many of the exhibitions in the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, I typeset with the curators, right, for them to be hung on the walls. Um, one evening, uh, as I was leaving from work, they called me into the office. And wow, when you get called in the office, you probably think you did something. But uh, Howard Dotson told me that Dr. John Henry Clarke had just got off the phone with him and asked if I could be present the next day uh, as Dr. Clarke's escort, his personal escort, because as I knew, Bishop Tutu was coming to the Schomburg Center, and Dr. Clarke wanted one of his good men to be with him. So I met Dr. Clarke downstairs, um, and I was his escort for the incredible presence of Bishop Tutu one of the liberators of South Africa, along with his wife. And ultimately, at the last days, well, before then, my father had passed away, and Dr. Clarke uh, came to my father's funeral, along with several scholars, um, Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Professor Scobie, and others um, came to my father's funeral. And the head of the Schomburg, Howard Dotson, came to see my father off. Um, in the 1 year before his passing, he was, of course, with his wife, Sybil Williams Clarke. That's where he was living as he was getting ill. And then we found out the news that Dr. Clarke had passed away. And Dr. Clarke was like a grandfather to me, both promoting me and at times scolding me. At one time in Africa, it was interesting that we were traveling in Africa. It was me, Dr. Jeffries, and Dr. Clarke. I was his escort. And we were traveling on the roads of the dirt roads of Africa and Ghana at this particular time. And we had visited two mosques, two African Islamic mosques. And I began to unfortunately complain. It was a long day, long drives, and that was my mistake because Dr. Clarke was at the driver's side, Dr. Jeffries was in the middle, and I was at the behind the driver. And I started complaining to Dr. Jeffries about, uh, look, we haven't eaten. It's time to go. It's getting ready to get sundown. And unfortunately, Dr. Clarke had a mission. And I was deterring them from their mission by talking to Dr. Jeffries. And Dr. Clarke reached over through Dr. Jeffries and he said, "Shut up. You're a damn fool." And I was like, well, wow, this is the great Dr. John Henrik Clarke. So why am I a damn fool in my mind? Not in the speech, in my mind. And then he began to lecture both me and Dr. Jeffries about going to the greatest mosque that Africans ever built in Africa, called the Tuba Mosque, where Africans wrote the Quran in their own language because they felt that the Arabs were not true Muslims in culture and in treatment. And that's Dr. John Henrik Clarke. For the people around him, he would correct them, but then reward them with one of the greatest in person lectures that you will hear. So Dr. John Henrik Clarke lectured me personally. And that's a different type of lecturing. So when we got to the doors of Tuba Mosque, first of all, it transformed into a medieval Islamic scene where there were beautiful women with beautiful clothing, and many of them bare-breasted, uh, even bare-breasted and having children on their back tied, but still nevertheless um, bare-breasted, uh, and um, people in the market were selling goods, and it was loud, but it was very orderly. So we walked to the front doors of Tuba Mosque, and of course it was closed. The mosque wasn't open, and Dr. Jeffries began to bang, boom, boom, boom on the door. And the reason why it was closed because they were having some type of meeting, right? So the guard came, and Dr. Jeffries in French told him that we're Africans from America, and we have brought one of our greatest scholars, Dr. John Henrik Clarke, and he would like to walk with us and talk with us in the mosque. So the guard went back, and then the imam of the mosque came out. The imam of the Tuba mosque came out, and he uh, recognized who Dr. John Henrik Clarke was, and he shook his hands, and he said that he was in an important meeting, and he would love to uh, walk and talk with us, but it hadn't been planned. But he said that we could have our passage through the mosque, and if he got a chance, he would come back. So the doors opened, and there was this water fountain on the side, and Dr. John Henry Clarke walked through us, walked to the water fountain, took off his shoes, then his socks, and turned to us like we were stupid and said, uh, uh, "Do as I do." So we took off our shoes and socks, and Dr. Clarke began to wash his feet, and so did we. And then for the rest of the time at Tuba Mosque, we walked barefoot through the whole mosque. And then we climbed where the call for prayer is, and Dr. Clarke took us up there, and we were able to see the whole grounds from the top of the uh, place where they called the prayer. And it was one of the most unbelievable scenes I will take with me. Um, Dr. Clarke in um, 97, I think, passed away. And we organized his funeral at Abyssinia Baptist Church, where Reverend Calvin O. Butts presided. And I had worked with Reverend Calvin O. Butts with many of the funerals of our greats, um, before then and then after that. But there I was there for the funeral of Dr. John Henry Clarke. And of course, I had two duties. One was I had the duty of managing the 1,000 people that were outside that could not get in because they were not timely, and getting in those who I knew uh, had to be there, and unfortunately turning away many that I knew because they were untimely. And I closed the doors. That was my job. I closed the doors, and that was that. And then I had another duty, which would be to be as I was, grandson of Dr. Clarke. Me and the Sons of Africa, who were my brothers, we took turns um, uh, in front of the where Dr. Clarke was rested, and in our ceremonial uh, position. And then, when after all the speakers had spoken, and a lot of people that you know were younger than I. I know many of the people. The only person that I know of the community that you watched that was there was Jabari Asase. He was the only one that I uh, know of this community that we're in that was there, but he was very young at that time period. Um, and so after everyone had spoken, all of the organizations, all the people from the old Black nationalist movement and from ASCAC and from others, um, my next job was to be a pallbearer for Dr. John Henrik Clarke. So they assembled me. The pallbearers were the professional pallbearers, not the community, until we put him in the uh, casket. But I followed Dr. John Henrik Clarke to the elevator of the um, church, and the many people don't know funeral parlors is almost a secret society. They have particular roles that you don't know. Some of them are armed, right? Some of them are uh, how can I say, they have their own ritualistic rules that they follow. So we were in this elevator. They opened up the coffin one last time, and they meticulously took all the things that people put in Dr. John Henrik Clarke's coffin. People put flowers, people put notes, people put ornaments, people put things. And they took all those things, uh, and sometimes people put bad things, right? But they're a secret society, and they took everything that they could find uh, from Dr. Clarke. They even, how can I say, removed his coat, his jacket, and they searched inside to make sure that nothing that any human put there, um, anything. And then the next stop was the funeral hearse. And that's the last time I saw Dr. John Henrik Clarke. Um, the only other thing that I saw was when Alk sent me a picture of when he went to visit Dr. Clarke's grave. Uh, and that was that. Dr. John Henry Clarke's house is on 223, I think 130. Is it on 138th Street, 137th Street? It's the next block from Abyssinia. So it's on 137th Street. And there is a Clarke House on Compton Avenue, but it is something that was in the name of Dr. John Henry Clarke, but I'm not even sure that Dr. Clarke ever went to that building, uh, but it's named after him. But his place, and the next time I get a chance, I'll take a picture of it. It's the worst building on that block, which is part of Stryver's Row. It's boarded up. Um, it's not been on the market because, but it will probably be sold for taxes. We weren't able to get the building, so that's why they created the Clarke House on 138th Street, because it was in his daughter's name, Nzinga. Um, so there in that building was Dr. John Henry Clarke's library, who where I went to read for him, and to be a messenger between Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Dr. Clarke, to pick up things and to receive things. I worked on a project with Dr. John Henry Clarke, a scholarly project on Dr. Clarke wanted Diop's book Civilization or Barbarism to be uh, translated from French to English. And I was in school for computer science, and I was part of this committee between Dr. Clarke, Yalingi Ngimi, and Dr. Leonard Jeffries, and me and my former director at the Schomburg, my direct supervisor, we went to Connecticut to get a PC, but it wasn't a Microsoft PC. It was before the Microsoft PCs, and it was standardized. So we got this computer, and I was in charge of the backing up the data and making sure that the machine worked well for Yalingi Ngimi to translate the book. Um, I was young. I was just happy to be there. You won't see my name in the credits, but if you were able to talk to Dr. Leonard Jeffries, or I have a video, you would know that I was on that project. So today, what I am here to do is protect the elder. Uh, because when there's an attack on people like Dr. John Henrik Clarke, it's very interesting that people ignore it. And I have to be honest, there's very few people that can. There are professors, but they are not on YouTube. They don't watch YouTube, right? And they would be so concerned if they knew. But I watch YouTube. I participate in YouTube. And the reason why I'm not mentioning the channel is because I respect the people that are on the channel, but sometimes it's a test to see who will stand for the elders. I will not stand for every person who has done work because maybe some of the criticisms are well founded. There is a lot of power plays, there's a lot of money plays, there's a lot of womanizing, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, right? Um, there are professors that misuse young people, young women, and stuff for grades and things like that. There's a lot of stuff like that happens because we're imperfect people. We are such imperfect people, and uh, sometimes morality slips. People think that they are beyond Ma'at. And that goes on even in this so-called thing that we call the conscious community, right? There's a lot of power plays. It continues, but there was a different generation, whereas at least many of them actually did the work. Most of these people today are very wealthy because of YouTube cash apps and what YouTube pays, and they feel that they are above something that we call Ma'at. And the thing about it is that our people watch and revere these people, right? And they pay them and they celebrate them. My little channel is not well watched, um, but I'm thankful that I do have an audience. So, without further ado, what I'm going to do is share my presentation on Dr. John Henrik Clarke. I am not going to be like other people and show pictures and even Dr. Clarke talking, because you can watch those things on YouTube or wherever. Great and Mighty Walk that was funded um, by Wesley Snipes, and we are grateful that we have Dr. John Clarke's last words. What I'm going to do is I'm going to academically defend Dr. John Henry Clarke from the attacks of his forward in the Iceman Inheritance by Michael Bradley. Dr. Clarke will say that Michael Bradley's book is racist. He will say it, right? Uh, uh, and he said it in the book, right? He said this book is racist. But Dr. John Henrik Clarke, many people do not know, was one of the only scholars of ours at that time that was sought after by white publishers. Dr. John Henrik Clarke turned down many books, but he also wrote the foreword and introductory books to several of the books, right? Of European descent scholars who was interested in getting their work into the hands of the emerging black market, who were voracious readers at that time of scholarly works. And so Dr. Clarke picked some books, not others. He picked the Iceman Inheritance because Dr. Michael Bradley was an alarmist. He was one of them talking about their conduct. And Dr. Clarke picked it because she can weave in as a model what has been, anybody could talk about racism and white supremacy, but for Dr. John Henrik Clarke, it was an opportunity to use African peoples as a model, right? As a model that people can't get around. It's easy to talk about it, things, but when you get an opportunity to talk about our people and listen from a scholar like Dr. John Henrik Clarke, you could see the importance of making what the crimes that many Europeans enjoyed about oppressing Africa and to move into the story. So again, I'm not castigating the people that critique Dr. John Henrik Clarke because they didn't know him. They weren't part of the movement. They're not part of the Black movement. And sometimes they're well intentioned, and other times that they are simply not. Right? And then it's a test to see which of our people with the capacity in this new internet age can step up and debunk them. So I don't need 3 videos. I just need 25 minutes of your time. So without further ado, let me just cue it up. And I write better than I speak. I'm not charismatic, but I write well and I have tools to make my writing stronger, right? So, and now because of the critique that you will have on the way I talk, I'm going to use a character to talk for me. So without further ado, let me just hide this message. And why don't you listen closely to what I wrote? Okay, without further ado, let's play it.
Recently, a social media YouTube channel recently attacked Dr. John Henrik Clarke for his foreword to Michael Bradley's book, The Iceman Inheritance, and sought to categorize Dr. John Henrik Clarke as a racist. They have been recently going through black scholars or black personalities and throwing away their work. I don't mind well-founded analysis, and they make good points at times. However, on their critique of Dr. Clarke, they failed to understand his foreword. This is why I have taken out time to address their show. Not to destry them, but to show what they have missed, and they can do better. This type of conclusory thinking is common among Black American men who have not engaged in the study of African history academically. Groups on YouTube engage in group thinking to hide their individual inadequacies in academic training, or to push fringe thinking. They hide using pseudo-names that they change often and repackage their views on other social media channels to gain momentum. Many of them marginalize and minimize other voices who have much more skill level themselves to create a false equality on views. They also attempt to merge different personalities into one grouping, using extreme views to attack scholars like Dr. Clarke. They will compare what Dr. Francis Cress Welsing has said and make it seem that Dr. Clarke was saying the same thing or framing his conversations the same way. Dr. John Henrik Clarke is a respected historian who uses history as framework for analysis. When I say he is a historian, I mean that he studies history of Europeans, Africans, and Americans. When he engages in critique, he often mentions facts that contain periods, peoples, ideology, forces, movements. There seems to be a new movement of people who critique racism as being racist. Dr. Clarke in his foreword seemed to use Bradley's work to say that finally there has been a critique of white racism by a European descendant. What these young men do not know that there hadn't been many critiques on white racism in popular books. Dr. Clarke also knew that Bradley's earlier book upset white racism enough to have a discussion. What Dr. Clarke did was add the African example and used his time to use what Europeans did to Africa. Accusations that Dr. John Henrik Clarke's foreword to Michael Bradley's The Iceman Inheritance is itself racist and misunderstand his intent, content, and intellectual legacy. Here's a detailed explanation of why such allegations is unfounded. What Dr. Clarke said. The important contribution that Michael Bradley has made to this subject is in the realm of an alarmist, calling attention to what has already happened and what needs to be done about it. Western racism is a disease that has affected the whole world. Its after effect might, in the final analysis, do more harm than good to its creators. This book is not a masterpiece of scholarship or analysis. The content of the book, The Iceman Inheritance, is an important message for our times and all times if we have the hopes of creating a world free of war, race hatred, and tension. His inquiry into this subject, his bold admissions and revelations, will inevitably open other doors and put other subjects on our intellectual agenda for investigation.
This is Dr. John Henrik Clarke talking. I'll play it back. Dr. John Henrik Clarke is talking. It's not in his words, but I am quoting him. So let me just play it back.
To add the African example and used his time to use what Europeans did to Africa. Accusations that Dr. John Henrik Clarke's foreword to Michael Bradley's The Iceman Inheritance is itself racist and misunderstand his intent, content, and intellectual legacy. Here's a detailed explanation of why such allegations is unfounded. What Dr. Clarke said. The important contribution that Michael Bradley has made to this subject is in the realm of an alarmist, calling attention to what has already happened and what needs to be done about it. Western racism is a disease that has affected the whole world. Its after effect might, in the final analysis, do more harm than good to its creators. This book is not a masterpiece of scholarship or analysis.
That's what Dr. Clarke said about the book.
The content of the book, The Iceman Inheritance, is an important message for our times and all times if we have the hopes of creating a world free of war, race hatred, and tension. His inquiry into this subject, his bold admissions and revelations, will inevitably open other doors and put other subjects on our intellectual agenda for investigation. In my opinion, this is the meaning of his investigation and the essence of his contribution to the subject of race in a changing world. It's funny to me that they critique Dr. Clarke for writing the foreword to the Iceman Inheritance to attack him as a scholar. They claim that this makes Dr. Clarke a racist. It was Michael Bradley who has used Caucasian throughout the book. When Dr. Clarke used this word, if you have read his work, he was talking about systems and certainly white supremacy, not individual people, except if individual were responsible. It's also funny that people enjoy the privileges of white supremacy, but say they are not racist. Michael Bradley's book is a counter-racist book. He is attacking white supremacy and not being one of those European descent individuals that simply enjoy the system. Again, Dr. Clarke, as a historian, took the opportunity to weave in the African story in a historical way. Michael Bradley, as Dr. Clarke said, was an alarmist. Bradley said this book is racist, for, among other things, I will attempt to show that racism itself is a predisposition of but one race of mankind, the white race. I believe that I can show that our converging contemporary crises, like racism itself, have their origins in the prehistory of the white race alone. We attribute various threats to our survival to man's folly. But this is a conscious and self-protecting euphemism. Nuclear war, environmental pollution, resource rape, all are primary threats to our survival, and all are the result of peculiarly Caucasoid behavior, Caucasoid values, Caucasoid psychology.
This is Michael Bradley talking about his book and talking about what he, as a European descent, thinks about the nature of his people.
There is no way to avoid the truth. The problem with the world is white men. If this insight has generally escaped us, it is only because we Caucasoids have dictated much history, written most of it, and judged it in terms of our own self-image. But we have never looked at ourselves in an objective biological mirror, and that is what we shall now proceed to do. I will say, as the author of this presentation, there is no one way to critique racist and racism, and not one way to act against it. Racism is violent, and fighting against it will be violent. Before you critique Dr. Clarke and many of those who stood against it, such as Malcolm X, Harriet Tubman, Jim Brown, the abolitionist who killed his fellow man, those of the slave revolts in America, the Haitian Revolution and Caribbean uprisings, and even those who fought in the Civil War, then you must call them all racist. If you yourself, whatever ancestry you come from, enjoy white supremacy and find ways to protect it, then you yourself may be a racist, a comfortable, quiet racist. Nevertheless, a racist. Racism in America is inescapable. It's American as apple pie. I am privileged to have worked with Dr. Clarke and followed his work. If Dr. Clarke is a racist for writing in this book, then you are a racist for not yourself fighting against racism. Disproof without deliverance. The enduring hypocrisy of science, religion, and the global persistence of white supremacy. Despite the scientific consensus over the past half-century that the biological concept of race is a fallacy, white supremacy and racial hierarchies remain entrenched worldwide. Theodore W. Allen's work on the invention of the white race is academically accepted, as well as other notable scholars. However, they have failed to uproot systemic racism. It highlights the complicit role of religious institutions in promoting or tolerating racial ideology, and argues that science and academia alone cannot achieve racial justice without coordinated institutional, cultural, and spiritual reforms. Advances in genetics, anthropology, and history have thoroughly dismantled the idea that humanity can be legitimately divided into discrete biological races. Genome.gov, 2022, Harvard Library, 2025, PNAS, 2024. Scholars, including Theodore W. Allen, a pioneering historian, and many European intellectuals, have critically examined the origins and construction of white supremacy as a socially engineered system to uphold elite power. Allen, 1994-1997, Jones, 2024. Yet, despite these rigorous academic critiques and the definitive scientific consensus, white supremacy remains deeply embedded in global legal systems, cultural narratives, and religious frameworks. Smithsonian Magazine, 2019, Britannica, 2025. Science is not enough. Theodore W. Allen's groundbreaking work revealed that whiteness was deliberately invented in colonial Virginia to divide laborers and maintain ruling class control, establishing race as a tool of social control rather than a biological fact. European scholars and Marxist historians have further explored and critiqued the historical roots of white supremacy, uncovering its origins in economic exploitation, colonialism, and legal codifications. Harvard Library 2025, MIT Press Reader 2024. This body of scholarship emphasizes that race is a socio-political construct with profound material consequences, sustained by interlocking institutions rather than biology. Nonetheless, social and institutional racism persists because scientific knowledge rarely translates into political will, social reform, or cultural change. Smithsonian Magazine 2019, PMC 2024. The religious complicity in sustaining racial hierarchies. Beyond intellectual and scientific efforts, religious institutions, purporting universal inclusion, have actively supported and propagated white supremacy. Christianity's doctrine of discovery facilitated centuries of conquest and enslavement with ecclesiastical sanction, and church bodies often sanctified segregation and racial oppression. Jones, 2024, Harvard Gazette, 2023. In various Islamic contexts, religious distinctions have been used to justify social stratification, despite core theological affirmations of equality. Hinduism's caste hierarchy, racialized further under colonial rule, persists in intertwining spiritual and racial systems of exclusion. Although movements within faith traditions, such as liberation theology and anti-apartheid activism, have opposed racism, these remain exceptional and insufficient to offset institutional inertia and complicity. The persistence of race as a social and spiritual construct. The endurance of race reflects entrenched power structures that benefit from maintaining social hierarchies, economic exploitation, and cultural myths. The wages of whiteness endure despite scientific refutation. PNAS 2024, Smithsonian Magazine 2019. Pseudoscientific racism continues to re-emerge, often tacitly supported or inadequately challenged by religious organizations and cultural norms. Cornell News 2017, MIT Press Reader 2024. There has to be methods toward systemic change beyond science. Science is not enough. The scientific debunking of race as biological fallacy and the scholarly unveiling of whiteness as a social invention have not translated into lived racial justice. White supremacy remains global, adaptive, and deeply embedded in institutions, culture, and spirituality. To dismantle it, coordinated efforts spanning scientific education, genuine religious accountability, legal reform, and cultural transformation are indispensable. Revolution is what is needed, both passive and maybe violent. The African in America has a better case for revolution than the Americans who fought against Britain over taxation, especially when the American colonists got to America on the bill of the crown, which they never repaid. The victors of war never tell you that the American colonists actually robbed the crown, and when they were strong enough, fought a pretextual war to hide their grifting of what the British crown had pain in their colonizing of the Americas while maintaining slavery. The question is, how long does the oppressed of African people have to wait? Dr. Clarke's contribution is again using the African experience of enslavement and oppression as a model for redress. I have and will say this many times. A critique on Dr. Clarke for his writing in the Bradley's Iceman Inheritance is unfounded. It would be better to critique what he said, and even if he used Caucasian, it was in the scope of criticizing white supremacy. What is missing from these arguments is a critique on those who propagate white supremacy. It is ridiculous to critique Dr. Clarke without critiquing the thousands of authors who propagated white supremacy and ignored the crimes associated in it. Dr. Clarke's work is largely academic, even if it's public. His words, as important as they were printed, cannot be criticized without the proper criticism of white supremacy ills from its many authors. If one was trained academically, they would immediately see that Dr. Clarke's is a systems analysis. It is interesting to note that while these YouTubers have criticized Dr. John Henrik Clarke as a racist for writing the foreword to Michael Bradley's book, The Iceman Inheritance, Henry Louis Gates, Jr., whom many regard as a preeminent scholar, did not label Dr. Clarke as racist in his New York Times op-ed. Instead, in his article, Black Demagogues and Pseudo-Scholars, published on July 20th, 1992, Gates discussed Afrocentric scholarship and mentioned Dr. Clarke's association with Bradley's controversial book, noting specifically that Clarke had written the introduction. Gates's critique was broader, focusing on what he saw as the dangerous rise of demagogues and pseudo-scholars in the Black community, who in some cases promoted anti-Semitic views and questionable historical claims. However, Gates did not name Dr. Clarke as a demagogue or pseudo-scholar in the article. Instead, he referenced Clarke within the context of the Afrocentric academic movement and its engagement with works like Bradley's, but stopped short of personal accusations against Clarke. Dr. Clarke responded strongly to Gates's op-ed, rejecting the notion that he or his colleagues were demagogues or pseudo-scholars. Clarke argued, "He should never refer to anyone as a demagogue unless he's ready to call the names of the demagogues, singular or plural, and point out the nature of their demagoguery. He should never refer to any scholar as being pseudo unless he is ready to name the scholar and prove the pseudo nature of his or her work. To disagree with a scholar does not make the scholar a demagogue." This exchange was a real exchange during its time. There seems to be a problem when young YouTubers do not report on correspondences between scholars and then make accusations. If Henry Louis Gates did not call Dr. Clarke a racist for writing the foreword, then curiously, how does the critique of YouTubers even matter? Well, I guess it matters on YouTube, but until they do, as Dr. Clarke said, and have the stature to do it, their criticism should not matter. In this, I am criticizing them slightly for not seeing that Henry Louis Gates himself stopped for making any more points of Dr. Clarke's foreword except a mention. Clarke further maintained that scholars Gates critiqued had thoroughly engaged with neglected historical records and were actively engaged in a broader scholarly movement to reclaim African history, advocating for a reconsideration of existing historical narratives. In summary, Henry Louis Gates, Jr., in the July 20th, 1992, New York Times article, critiqued trends in Afrocentric scholarship, but did not call Dr. Clarke a racist or identify him personally with the demagogic behaviors he denounced. Dr. Clarke, in his published response, defended his scholarly work and challenged Gates for making generalized accusations about the Black scholarly community without evidence or specific names. Labeling Dr. Clarke's introduction as racist ignores his focus on dismantling racism, his rejection of hierarchical race theories, and his core message, fostering honest reckoning and mutual liberation. His critique is systemic and scholarly, not personal or prejudiced. Let's take a deeper dive into what Dr. Clarke's work was really about. Dr. John Henrik Clarke's Systematic Critique of Racism, Aspects and Analysis. Dr. John Henrik Clarke's introduction to Michael Bradley's The Iceman Inheritance serves as a comprehensive critique of the origins, development, and consequences of racism, especially as it arose and functioned within Western European-centric societies. Clarke's critique meticulously addresses the rationale, methods, institutional backing, and enduring global impact of racism, and finally, offers clear directions for overcoming it. Below, the critique is organized around key aspects identified in his commentary. Clarke's critique. Clarke asserts that racism was not a natural or universal human reality, but was deliberately constructed by European societies to serve their economic and social needs, especially during and after the Middle Ages. As Europe emerged from centuries of poverty and crisis, European leaders and thinkers invented ideologies of superiority to justify their aggressive expansion, via conquest, colonialism, and especially the transatlantic slave trade. Racism, in Clarke's framework, was engineered to legitimize domination of richer or more developed African and Asian regions, providing a moral and philosophical cover for exploitation. Historical manipulation. Clarke's critique. A central feature of Clarke's argument is his analysis of how Europeans systematically distorted world history. He maintains that Europeans not only recorded history to suit their narrative, but actively claimed undue credit for civilization's progress, while obscuring or minimizing non-European achievements. According to Clarke, African and Asian civilizations were building cities, literature, and philosophy centuries before Europe emerged from its own Neolithic period. But European historians rewrote or omitted these facts to exalt European achievements and to further justify contemporary racism. Religious institutional role. Clarke's critique. Clarke is especially critical of the role of the Christian Church and other European institutions in legitimizing and perpetuating racist ideologies. He points out that the Church, despite preaching equality in the spiritual sense, crafted and supported doctrines that cast Africans and other non-Europeans as inherently inferior or subhuman. This institutional blessing provided racism with a moral framework, enabling centuries of slavery, colonial subjugation, and missionary condescension, all rationalized as both spiritually required and culturally superior. Psychological function. Clarke's critique. Going deeper than institutions or economics, Clarke examines the psychological roots and effects of racism. He posits that repeated and loud claims of superiority by Europeans are in fact a sign of deep-seated insecurity, not confidence. If Europeans truly believed in their inherent superiority, Clarke reasons, they would not feel compelled to continually assert it. Thus, the ideology of racism also functioned to rally and stabilize European identity during periods of self-doubt or crisis. Global consequences. Clarke's critique. Clarke contends that racism proved disastrous for the entire world. Its harms were not limited to those it oppressed, but rebounded.
These are the things that Dr. Clarke said in the foreword. So to discard this analysis and just center on that he wrote the foreword without critically understanding his what he wrote is problematic. Again, I'm not castigating. I'm not even really criticizing those that put Dr. Clarke on the forefront. I'm just simply making the public aware of what Dr. Clarke said in whole in the foreword as best as I can.
On the perpetrators themselves. Societies in the Americas, Africa, and Asia were devastated physically and culturally, while the societies that constructed and maintained racist systems became morally corrupted and continually unstable. From inspired resistance, slave revolts, anti-colonial movements, to enduring legacies of conflict and trauma, racism undermined global civilization and progress as a whole. Solution advocated. Clarke's critique. For Clarke, the only adequate response to this historical disease is a rigorous, honest confrontation with the origins, persistence, and impact of racism.
So here Dr. Clarke gave you, and I'll play it again, Dr. Clarke gave you his format in dealing with it, right? Racism usually deals with violence. It deals with oppression, right? Dr. Clarke undermining people, castigating people, right? Oppressing people. Dr. Clarke said none of this. This is what he said.
Became morally corrupted and continually unstable. From inspired resistance, slave revolts, anti-colonial movements, to enduring legacies of conflict and trauma, racism undermined global civilization and progress as a whole. Solution advocated. Clarke's critique.
This is what Dr. Clarke is saying.
For Clarke, the only adequate response to this historical disease is a rigorous, honest confrontation with the origins, persistence, and impact of racism. He calls for the dismantling of racist structures and ideologies at every level: historical, institutional, psychological, urging all societies to move beyond excuses and face uncomfortable truths. The ultimate aim is not to invert hierarchies, but to build justice, fostering a world where mutual respect and genuinely equitable relations prevail. Comparative summary. Table of Dr. Clarke's analysis. Origins. Racism was consciously invented by European powers to support expansion and exploitation after the Middle Ages. Historical manipulation. Europeans rewrote world history to disguise the advanced achievements of Africa and Asia and to aggrandize Europe, justifying contemporary racism. Religious institutional role. The Christian church and European states gave racism not only legal but spiritual authority, actively supporting systems of oppression. Psychological function. Continual declarations of racial superiority betray the internal insecurity of the perpetrators. Racism provided a stabilizing myth for European societies. Global consequences. The resulting systems did not merely oppress the colonized, but ultimately injured the colonizers, perpetuating violence, resistance, and ethical harm across the globe. Solution advocated. Clarke emphasizes the need for honesty, institutional overhaul, and justice-driven reconciliation to dismantle racist systems and heal their legacies. Castigating critique of those who misread and malign Dr. Clarke's work. It is both intellectually dishonest and historically.
Those who critiqued Dr. Clarke, many of them did not malign Dr. Clarke, just cited the issue of him writing in the Bradley's Iceman Inheritance. But how can I say, others using that critique that they did, which was a critique, what they do is they stand behind and throw stones. And so they normally try to leave the people who made your critique, who are named, right? But again, that critique is acceptable to a point, but there are the problem is the people behind who take advantage of people who are trying to make critiques. And people are human, so I don't. So I'm not here to castigate those that did it. I'm here to let the public know uh, uh, that there is a side missing, that you can deal with it, academically, to see if in fact that Dr. Clarke is a racist, or did he write something that you just simply disagreed with? But then how much of the other stuff that he wrote did you agree with, right? So that's the point of it. My point in my old age at 60 years old is I own there's groups of people that I have to be very, very harsh. Today I'm not being harsh. I am just letting the public know that there is that you should read it forward and see what Dr. John Henrik Clarke was trying to get across. There's no perfect way to deal with racism, right? But he didn't incite violence. He didn't incite death. He didn't call for people to be shot, hung. He did it academically, as Dr. Clarke does. Uh, what more can you expect from Dr. Clarke? Though Dr. Clarke knew El Haj Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X, Malcolm put even Malcolm's terms in a different type of way, right? And Dr. Clarke was a good friend of Malcolm, and even tried to tone down the conflict that caused the ultimate death of Malcolm X, who was 39 years old at the time. And so I'm almost finished, but the racism and fighting against racism is violent. And we have Malcolm, and we have so many other leaders that was murdered by the hands of European descent people and African descent people, right, for engaging in a conversation about external forces affecting us all. And so El-Haj Malik El-Shabazz, he paid a price. His price was there was states involved, there was France involved, there was the United States involved, down to the states and the cities. There's a case for reparations for Malcolm X's family over that, right? Racism in America is as American as apple pie, right? So what do we expect? But here we have one of our own, and probably one of the best of ours. He speaks different than Marcus Garvey, right? He had more, or he had a different type of influence than Marcus Garvey created a, a mass movement. Uh, uh, some people's prophet Noble Drew Ali created a mass, how can I say, movement, right? But white supremacy has a way of using its claws to tear back even good-natured people, and certainly those people who they feel is a threat, right? We being passive about it, you could be passive, but what we should do is try to put people in their proper perspective. So I think there's only about 10 more minutes, or 8 more minutes. Okay.
Irresponsible for some to misread Dr. Clarke's powerful analysis and brand it as racist simply because it forthrightly confronts the documented realities of European-driven racism. Such a charge reflects at best a superficial engagement with Clarke's text, or at worst, a willful distortion intended to silence necessary critique. Those who hurl accusations of reverse racism at Clarke conflate a rigorous, evidence-based condemnation of systemic injustice with the very prejudices and hierarchical thinking that Clarke denounces. Dr. Clarke does not call for supremacy, vengeance, or the inversion of racist hierarchies. Rather, he rejects the entire framework of racial hierarchy. He exposes historically verifiable crimes, not to scapegoat individuals or ethnic groups, but to strip away the myths used to justify exploitation and to illuminate a pathway toward genuine justice and reconciliation. Such critics, by refusing to distinguish between a critique of systems and a condemnation of individuals, only reinforce the very ignorance and ideological defensiveness that perpetuate racial misunderstanding and inequalities. Dismissing Clarke as racist for stating uncomfortable truths is not only a misreading, it is a form of intellectual evasion that betrays an unwillingness to face history, preferring denial and scapegoating to the work of collective healing. In the end, those who agitate against Clarke's introduction reveal more about their own discomfort with historical accountability than any legitimate failing in Clarke's scholarship or moral vision. Far from being racist, Clarke's work is an unequivocal challenge to all forms of racial thought, a demand for honesty, maturity, and action in the pursuit of justice for all. In essence, Clarke's critique is both historical and moral, urging societies to face the true origins and functions of racism and to work collectively for a world free from its destructive grip. Those who mischaracterize his work only underscore the urgency of his call. My final words are first. I am a student of Dr. John Henrik Clarke and worked with him on several projects, including Chiek Antajop's translation from French to English project with Ya Lengingemi, and Dr. Leonard Jeffries. Dr. Clarke and Dr. Jeffries aided me in getting my first professional job at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. I was part of his team in writing his last work, Africans at the Cross.
That's young brother Reggie and Dr. Clarke when Dr. Clarke can see. This is at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture of the New York Public Library, and we were waiting for Bishop Tutu to arrive. And we'll go to the Schomburg shortly, maybe the end of this week or next week, and get an appointment so that maybe I could bring some pictures of that meeting between the shaking hands between Dr. Clarke and and Bishop Tutu, which you're looking at two men, right? Two different spaces of life. One directly in the pools of blood of those young Africans that fought against real white supremacy, right? And apartheid. And a scholar whose job was just to analyze that and to help with solutions. Bishop Tutu, uh, being in the blood of Africans, his perspective is much different, but he, like Dr. John Henrik Clarke, did not call for the deaths of people, right? And I'm not saying that righteous rage does not prevail, and that many of them who lost their children and lost their wives, lost their husbands, uh, they had righteous rage. It's not perfect. From a people that were super exploiting them for their land, their resources, their labor, right, and their futures, right. So here, Dr. Clarke is with young brother Reggie, right, at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. If you question if I ever worked there, right, but this is the home where Dr. John Henrik Clarke himself studied.
Crossroads as a reader when his eyesight failed. In reading the foreword again to the Iceman Inheritance by Michael Bradley, there is nothing in this foreword that makes Dr. Clarke a racist or having racist thoughts against individuals. When people engage in critique, they should first take some.
This is brother Reggie. Years later, I don't know, 15, 20, 15 years later, I guess. And this is Reverend Calvin O'Butts presiding at the Epicenter Baptist Church. And underneath is Dr. John Henry Clarke's casket. And on the other side is my brother Derek. Uh, and there is a picture of Dr. John Henry Clarke. For those who were not able to see him in that day or know him in life, right? Just a picture to remember. But I was there. I was there. And it's my job as a student and an extended grandfather to show Dr. Clarke as extended grandfather to show some respect in a way in which I don't disrespect the people that did the critique. Many of them are my friends. I just want to show that there is another perspective on Dr. Clarke's work. And here's the thing is, more prominent people than any of us paid respect for Dr. John Henry Clarke. There were thousands, at least 1,000 people outside while the funeral was going on who couldn't get into Abyssinian Baptist Church. But they stayed there all night until Dr. Clarke was put into the hearse to go to his final resting place. That is the love that Black people showed for Dr. John Henry Clarke. Just love for all of his work. And all we ask is for you to show love for the people who fought for us on a very, very high level.
College classes on historical analysis to help them organize their thoughts. Reading without the essential tools that are in university classes helps in making unfounded critiques. Here, Dr. Clarke was critiquing racism not being a racist. In this long fight, we have used many words such as Caucasian and white, but we know they are social constructs that are used by those who uses this constructs to oppress us. Dr. Clarke has every right to castigate these words, for his critique is only on those who label themselves as this. Dr. Clarke has always been a master of words, and before one lays criticism on his words, they should seek to understand his usage by checking his whole works. I heard on the chat from people that I respect that they would castigate their children.
This is Ank's picture. So Ank, and you can say whatever you want to say about Brother Ankh, Bobby Benga, right? he took the time out to put flowers on Dr. Clarke's grave, right? Um, and so this goes full. This all of this goes full circle because even people who can be critical at times know the difference on what a black man and black woman should do for our elders.
For using Dr. Clarke? Well, hopefully they will stumble on this YouTube paper when they do their literature review, if they have to do a paper on Dr. Clarke. Be very careful, your children may turn on you intellectually as conditions of racism are increasing and affecting them, and they may love you but secretly believe that you are off course with white supremacy. I would just say that you may not be remembered as one who fought for their own ancestors' pain and suffering. Black YouTubers, please do a better job in the future. Our struggle has been a long one and will be longer if we don't find solutions. We are often too hard on the ones who have tried to make a difference. Credit to Brother Ankh. He supplied the photo of Dr. Clarke's tombstone. He took the time to put flowers on his grave. Will you?
Oh, so that's it. So I think I said a lot, and I'm not going to be on for long. I will open up the lines to listen, just simply to listen to see what I got wrong with this, what I got wrong with Dr. Clarke. So let me just do that so that I can listen. I don't have to further defend Dr. John Henrik Clarke. I took 3 to 4 days to write this. I listened back to, even though I know most of the critique wasn't on Dr. John Henrik Clarke, it was on Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, and I made my critique on Dr. Frances Cress Welsing that many of her statements would have been better positioned if she provided empirical evidence. Dr. Clarke is is a lot different, is that he was an elder scholar and he uses history as a tool, and he usually backs up what he says with historical issues, again, without demonizing uh, uh, the whole group, but in fact, speaking very candidly about particular people in history. So um, I'm going to open up the lines. Let me see if there's anything else. I don't think there's nothing else. So I'm going to open up the lines, and I just want to know what I got wrong, right? With facts, right? What did I get wrong? And I'm also trying to, we went through a period of people just lecturing. That was another generation, and then the technology changed. And then, of course, people were always writing books. Not everybody can read whole books or remember or be able to analyze it. Then we went into YouTube, and we went to a period of PowerPoint presentations. In the beginning, more picture presentations, right? So what I tried to use using my technological abilities is try to present a presentation that is a little bit more audiovisual, short of what you call a documentary, right? Which costs us a lot of money. So I hope to see there are YouTubers, particularly in the financial world and other places, that are building better presentations. Uh, but a lot of us are still using PowerPoint presentations, and then using PowerPoint presentations without sources, and still being distracted with their PowerPoint presentation. So what I tried to do is softly critique my good brothers who I speak to almost every 2 or 3 days online, to say, well, okay, I heard what you have to say. Now you heard what I have to say. So I'm critiquing your points. So you have an opportunity to critique my points on Dr. Clarke's position of the Iceman Inheritance. And that's all, because they are my brothers. Now, there are people who I don't care too much for, right? Who say I can't write, right? I heard somebody calling them, someone online, I don't say his name, stew peas and pigtails, says that Brother Reggie can't write. Brother Reggie was on the editorial board of the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. He says I write like a kindergarten or a third grader, right? I have a college degree, earned college degree in the sciences, right? I mean, it's always these type of people. But my problem is, why do we give them airtime? Why do we give them the airtime? They stand behind other people's critiques. They never make a presentation. And even if they made a presentation, it's still not a better presentation that I can give. But they get your ear. Then there are other people who just talk charismatic, can pronounce every word correctly, but can't write a sentence in the abstract that's sourced. Cannot, right? Nobody is perfect, but you should have some type of moral integrity on what you critique in the way that you say it. I think I was trained that way, right? So I always try to do better. So I'm doing better. So let me open up the lines. And again, what I said was, racism is very complicated. You can be a racist and not call anybody a name, but enjoy the comforts of white supremacy, right? And push that to your friends and family about the cars that you drive, the many women that you have had, right? The salary that you have, right? But a lot of times it trickles down to, it catches up to you, because then if you look at the sacrifices that you've made for your own family, right? Because you can't have all these things and then you don't put any money into your children. And many of these people, they have all the trinkets and all the, they have all of that. But look at their families. Their family structures in shambles. Look at that. I could show you. I'm lucky enough to show you. I'm just lucky. I can't say it's more than luck, because guess what? You could be the best parent in the world and do all that things and just suffer life. You can, right? Things happen to fathers, to mothers, to children. Those things happen. It's the fight that we have for our life. But if you don't suffer any of those life things, and you don't direct your children in 2025, right, to do better, to excel, right, then don't talk to me about racism, right? Because racism will catch up with your own generations because of what you did not do as being a passive racist, right? Racism happens in many forms. So you could just be a do nothing, right? But say a lot, right? But if I were you, I would take those trinkets that you have, cash them in, and put it in a good education for your children, and then to follow their work, do their homework with them, right? Pay extra fees for them to go to different educational places to get different types of education. But you don't. So you don't have to worry about, and I'm not talking about my brothers on the show, not talking about them particularly. I'm not talking about them at all. I'm talking about the rest of us who have a lot to say and do nothing for themselves and do nothing for their families, right? There are people who are broke because they had to pay for schooling, right? They had to sacrifice. And anybody from the from my generation knows that, listen, our parents was making something like $300 to $400 a week at best. Hard labor, working transit jobs, bus jobs, working elevator operators, and can only bring home a little bit about a little bit of, but because many of them were trained by their own parents to save, they put it into their families, right? But then they get disgusted when the sacrifices that they made, their children go out and do crimes, right? And don't pursue education or run up bills in college on degrees that lead them nowhere, right? And then they have to put up bail money. That's white supremacy that's authoring this. But then again, we all have to look at ourselves in the damn mirror about what we do. But I've been I know what this world is about, and I know that there are even people in the so-called black movement that take advantage of people for their own personal benefit. But chickens come home to roost for them, and many of them are not producers. And when they die, they will be forgotten, right? You know, what's a life for if you're going to be forgotten because you did nothing for yourself and did nothing for your family? And so 3 generations down, when you great grandfather, they're going to call you Bobby. They're going to call you, oh, Mr. Paul. They won't even know your full names. So worry about your own households. Worry about teaching your children to remember their past, right? Start there. Don't start with people who gave a life for their people. One day I'll show you Dr. John Henrik Clarke's FBI file. Maybe even tonight. Many of the people who reported on Dr. John Henrik Clarke look like you. What was Dr. John Henrik Clarke doing? Writing. Freedom Ways. What was he writing? Right? He had some social living ideas, which you call socialism, right? But they were looking for ways, in fact, to put Dr. John Henrik Clarke in prison. And I'm talking about the federal government, right? So I'm gonna open up the lines. So here's the StreamYard. And I'm gonna listen unless somebody says something reckless. It's on you. And again, I'm not here to castigate my brothers. I'm here to give you what Dr. Clarke and Dr. Leonard Jeffries and uh, Professor Small and others, Professor Edward Scobie and Dr. Jacob Carruthers and Dr. Asa Hilliard and Dr. Malana Karenga and Dr. Riketti Amen gave me. And I'm giving it to you for free, right? Even though I have my little Cash App here, I get enough to pay my utility for YouTube with it, right? Jose Francis is here. Super Wavy is here. Where is somehow I missed where is Jose? There you go. Super
Good night,
Wavy.
brother.
How you doing?
Uncle Reggie, peace to you, peace to the panel. Uncle Reggie, man, I gotta let you know, we appreciate your work. You know what I'm saying? None of this goes in vain. The good thing is with YouTube, it's an archive, so we can come back to this 5 years later. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate your work. You know what I'm saying? You is a great elder. We love what you do. You know what I'm saying? Another thing I want to say, peace to the family. Um, Another thing I want to say, when we was going through racism, you can't you can't contribute what we produce to being racist. It's like you put us in this situation and we calling it how we see it, and they want to call us racist. No, that's not racist. That's not racist. We are explaining what the hell is going on. You know what I'm saying? Like I just don't understand it. You show love to my platform, Uncle Reggie, so I'm just showing the same love back.
I do. Super Wavy is one of those young brothers that decided to do shows out of nowhere, and he's monetized, right? for his hours and hours of putting in, even when he got 5 to 10 people. So of course, I am going to support the young generation. When Super Wavy get a little bit, out of hand, because how can I say he's at that age group, right? And he talks a certain type of way. I said, well, okay, here's my perspective, Super Wavy. You could take it, you don't have to take it, but I'm still going to say it, and I'm not going to argue. If it gets too difficult, I'm going to say I leave. But a lot of times, I end up staying because I'm looking for solutions. So if I don't listen to Super Wavy, right, then I'm not listening to the future generation, and so I'm ignorant. I'm set in my ways, right? Set in my ways. I may not look like I'm 60. Oh, but I'm 60 years old, born in 65, right? I mean, my eyesight is failing. Shoot, I'm gonna be like Dr. John Henrik Clarke. Shoot, right? And it's a different perspective when you have been trained. So you gotta love your younger generations, especially when they're doing something, right? Instead of calling them names and he's pseudo, help them. If you can't help them, that's because you are pseudo. You're not trained to help them. You don't know how to get to the youth. So you criticize them, even if you're a few years older than him. You criticize them, but you really don't want to help them. What you want to do is you want to tell young warriors what to do. You couldn't tell Malcolm died at 39 years old. How old are you, Super Wavy? Super Wavy, roughly.
31.
You're 31. Malcolm died at 39 years old. Malcolm was a young man. Young man, right? Man, I ain't seen 39, man, in so many years, right? Time flies. So if you don't know how to talk to the youth, and if you see the youth doing something, try to support them. Try to support them. Don't overtalk them. Convince them. Convince them not with your charisma. Convince them with the facts. So that's why I'm here. I'm glad Super Wavy is here. Jose Francis, what you got to say?
Good night, brother Reggie. Good night.
Good
I
night.
want I want to point out there's a difference between criticism and critique, and people need to understand that. Criticism is a personal attack on an individual's personality because you don't like it. Critique is taking someone's work, vetting their sources, and saying this is an intellectual disagreement that I have with you based on my sources and my intellectual work, not a personal beef amongst two Negroes on YouTube. And therein lies the difference between you and others. You don't have to mount a personal attack to get the point across. And others are just personally attacking people and talking about things that they don't know. They're making Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark sound bites on YouTube, quoting them, and then jumping up and down and saying that they did something. When they have you here to call you well, what happened? Why don't you come on my show, Brother Reggie, for half an hour and explain what really happened and how the individual really thought? You don't want to do that. You understand? They make comments in the chat, but they never come on to talk to the individual and say, well, this is that. What can I do to better myself as an intellectual? I'm not a perfect person, Brother Reggie, but I don't like to do personal attacks and I don't like to state my personal opinion because it doesn't count in this conversation. It's not about what I think. Because if it was about what you and I think, we wouldn't be on YouTube right now. We wouldn't have YouTube pages if we said what we really thought about some people personally. So I want to tell people don't make personal attacks on people, especially people that you don't know. Find people who might know the individual and have a talk with them. Look at the person's intellectual work and make an intellectual critique. Not a personal comment, not not coming into a YouTube chat or Facebook chat and arguing from an idiotic point of view. I was on Super Wavy platform the other day, had a whole argument with two individuals who don't know anything about what they're talking about for hours, and they still in their point. So I'm challenging people that we're going to talk. talk from a point of knowing. If you don't know, say you don't know. Because eventually you're going to ask yourself. I'd rather say I don't know than to come on with a whole presentation and embarrass myself. So thank you for the work that you do. And I'm one who wants to follow in people like your footsteps and try my best to do the right thing by making proper intellectual critiques and arguments. So thank you for showing me that. Because I didn't know before I watched people like you. So now I can make those proper critiques. And I have to take a lot of critique in return. Because I don't know everything. So thank you, Brother Reggie. I appreciate your work. You know what I'm going to say.
Well, I appreciate you and listen, when nobody he's Jose Francis he is Solomonic TV. You should like and subscribe. It's hard to do the work, and then it's hard when you don't get any support. Jose Francis is on everybody's show. Very few people go on his show. Very few people like and subscribe to his videos, right? But he's doing hard work, right? He's doing hard work, and that's the thing. But YouTube is cash flow right now, right? It's capitalist. It's capitalist, right? So those are the problems. I have a small channel, right? My channel is small. I spent years on other people's channels, right? How can I say? I learned something. I learned something. I learned a lot, right? I learned a lot, right? So, I don't want to talk more about that, but the fact of the matter is, all I say to those people, keep breathing, keep living, best of luck, because the day that you check out, watch how fast people forget you, right? But I won't be forgotten because because of the people that I served and the work that I've done, right? And money is not everything, right? Money's not everything. So thank you, Jose, and you keep up your good work. Jose is out here doing hard work on ancient Egyptian literature, right? That's hard work, right? Listen, I can go and be the only African American, a descendant of enslaved Africans, to talk to Dr. Zahi Hawass and get it filmed and give him a nice pushback. You think that goes viral? Nah. You know what I get? Oh, if I talk to him, I was talking to my brother today, and what he said to me, right? Just as Jedamonk. He says, Brother Reggie, now Jedamonk is talking to the Egyptologist. He's the only one of us who is non-PhD who is on academic conferences. He's the only one. He did RC, he did ASAR. He's going to do ASAR again this November, right, on a very difficult subject. What people will say is, well, if you ain't got a PhD in the work, you should have got a PhD in the work. You're not an expert. Don't let that fool you. Don't let that fool you, because the places where Jedamonk is going, very few people will go. I'm just happy to be able to have stimulated and pointed a way for him, and he's paid back full, because he and Monica and Baba Bonacci helped pay my way a shot in the dark to talk to Zahi Hawass, right? Just a shot in the dark to talk to Zahi Hawass. So they collected over $800 to put me in $100,000 room. Just the possibility. But, they said if anybody can do it, Brother Reggie, he could talk to Dr. Hawass, right? And he's not going to be like some of the other people who came to the conference. Me and Jet was sitting down in the back, and some woman said, "I can't talk. I'm shivering. I'm shivering. Like Dr. Zahir was is really an ancient Egyptian, right? Like he built the pyramids. But 20 minutes before that, I just reminded Dr. Hawaz, you're distinct from the ancient Egyptians. You're related, but you're distinct. You're a different culture, right? You're an expert in what you do, but you cross the line. So I was able to do that. But you would think that my conversation would go viral. Nah, it's not going to go viral. Why? Because they didn't do it. I did it, right? And for the record, I still will be the only African American, enslaved African, who put Dr. Zahir Hawaz in his intellectual place. You are distinct from the ancient Egyptians. You should stop attacking sub-Saharan features because you have it too. You have it now too. So the nose that you're talking about, you have that nose of the sub-Saharan. Those lips, you have it. The only difference is your skin is a little lighter. Okay. So, but again, I'm not here to castigate my brothers for their criticism, but I'm guarding against those that stand behind them as they were making their criticism, throwing rocks, right? It's those people that I say that are nothing. I think that the people who made the video, I think that they are still thinking about things. Maybe they will be a little bit more thoughtful, right, in their work. Maybe they will still pick up more works to show that I'm wrong, right? But in the meantime, in between that, this is my presentation. Pan Africa James, what's going on? Pan Africa James, where you at? We can't hear you. I want to hear what Pan African James got to say. Pan African James, where you at? Okay, if you can't get in for some reason, log back in and I'll let you back in. Or put something in the chat because I can't hear you. Mind you, I put out the link and I can only be on for a little while longer because I'm working on a case, a defamation case where a mixed race woman called a Jewish man a nigger, and I'm on the case because in professional settings, the word nigger should never be used. And so I have the skill set to help prevail, this, because I think that we're going too far with using the word or nigger. And if we don't stop it, then anybody who calls us nigger in court will be exonerated, right? So that's what I'm working on. Pan Africa James, where you at? Oh, my brother Philip Baines. Philip Baines is my good brother. He decided to go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and called me up for a tour. And I was so happy to walk with him, even though he has different views. He believes in Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior, and but he wanted to see some things for himself, make up his own mind, and he was looking for a good guide who can just show him some of the things that he needs to see. So I was just so happy to hang out with Philip Baines. Who else is here? Pan African Designs, where you at? Put something in the chat. Let me know where you are. Peace to the family, and thank you for being amazing and great always, Big Brother Reggie. Got to get ready for work. Brother with speed. Get ready for work and be safe tonight, whatever you do. Pan-African James, come back in. So, listen, I spent 25 minutes showing my video. It was only 25 minutes. And I just wanted to respond to the critiques in a responsible way. Doesn't mean that I'm completely right, but I did track back, and I found out that Henry Louis Gates, I had forgotten Henry Louis Gates and Dr. Clarke had a respectable discourse. And Dr. Henry Louis Gates, even though he mentioned the Iceman Inheritance, he did not step over the line and call Dr. Clarke a racist. He did not do that. He just took a shot across the bow. But now Dr. Henry Louis Gates is going to Africa, doing documentaries, right? And and he's participating in the in Malcolm X's legacy, right? So people change. It takes you over time. When he wrote Black Demagogues, that op-ed in the New York Times, in a section he was talking about me. I went to a forum in St. Paul's Church with Dr. Leonard Jeffries. And Jewish people were saying, well, they participated, but it was minimal. I said, fine, I want an apology for the little bit that you said that you participated in. And they apologized. And Henry Louis Gates says that they needed not, given what they went through, to apologize for what they did in slavery. Not all of them, some of them. And he wrote that in the, but I've seen Henry Louis Gates many times, talked to him recently, talked to him at one of the Malcolm X's anniversaries where I demanded that they take on a court case in city and state court for reparations for the death of Malcolm X. And ultimately, they decided to do it federally instead of city and state. But I talked to Henry Louis Gates then. I talked to him another time. I've spoken to Cornel West several times, critiqued him, right? In the slave theater, he tried to take up for Henry Louis Gates' article, and there's a newspaper article in City Sun or the Amsterdam News where I forced him, well, Dr. Jeffries, listening to me, got up there and says to Cornel West, well, if you say that there are people who've done things to Black people, and you said that some of these people were Jewish, name the names. And it became a riot. It became a riot in the slave theater. Maybe one day I'll find that clipping. Yes, says Mo, the word nigga does mean ignorant, but words change. Words change. And nigga began directed to a racial group. So you are right about that. Where's Pan-African James? I know he got a lot to say. All right. Who just came on? Let me see who this is. Oh, Shesmo, what's going on?
Can you hear me?
Oh, loud and clear.
What's up, brother Reggie?
What's going on?
I'm not gonna call you uncle because you ain't old enough to be my uncle. I'm next month I turn 5'9", so.
Okay, you don't have to say that. What's your point?
You already? No, I'm just messing with you. But let's see a point. First of all, I appreciated the presentation. Over this journey of this so-called quote unquote woke, over 30, 40 years of studying. And I remember when Wesley Snipes first put out. I think that was about 30 years ago. First put out The Great and Mighty Walk. And I probably had seen every YouTube video that had Dr. Clarke, Dr. Ben, and Ivan Van Sertima and Chancellor Williams. All of their videos. Of course, today they've taken a lot of them down, or some of the channels have gone off the YouTube space.
You know, they've been strike because Transatlantic Productions, which I put my video on, Dr. Hawass there, they had recorded those videos, and a lot of people were using them to make money and not even having the decency to call them, so they strike them.
Yeah, but I know that there was, there were a lot of channels that even had the old television shows that interviewed Dr. Clarke, Dr. Ben, Ivan.
Yeah, Tony Brown's Journal, Gil Noble, ABC or CBS, or I think it was ABC. They will strike the videos because it's their property. They wouldn't even give Gil Noble rights to his own show. It wasn't his show. They told him it wasn't your show. We produced it. We televised it.
Right, but one of my points is that they've even taken all those old videos down. You can't even find them when you go and try to search by their names. Over the years, they've taken them down because there was a lot of good. I've recorded some on DVD, but it's been a lot. But your presentation, I feel was spot on. I remember, I've never read, and I would ask you if you would indulge me. And one other thing I'd say about your life, being about 4 to 6 hours away from you when I was growing up, in D-Ware, and you up there in the Mecca. I admire what you've shared and what I've learned about the things that you were able to do over your course of your 59, 60 years. And it's just a blessing that you are able to share with not only your brother and your brothers and your sisters, but the youth that are coming behind, and to immortalize this information. I wish you, if whatever information you do have, archives, you would put more of it on your
I
channel.
probably would if I get some money to go to Chipotle or I probably would. But it's the practicalities of life. It's like you do this, and people like you appreciate it, but other people they look for opportunities to take it or to knock me. So. Uh,
Well, I mean, just to have if there's information that you have that many or many have not seen or many will never see, if you were to put it on this YouTube space, it might be there forever and it would not be lost or missed. And it's not, like you said earlier, it's not always about money, but you can monetize it, and I'm sure people would view it, and it'd be another stream of information available that people can tap into, since other venues have taken theirs down or made it hard for
Well,
others.
listen, I've been on Chesma. I appreciate what you're saying. I've been on first of all, I have the oldest YouTube channel, right? Uh that's Africa Online TV. You can see when it's created, right? That's when YouTube wasn't even monetizing, right? So you would just get 10 minutes. And I spent as you know, I probably spent about 8 years on someone else's channel, right? uh, and many of those videos you can't find them. So that's just what it is,
Yeah,
right?
and I'm very familiar because, coming from Blog Talk, or online, and then Blog Talk. And before your channel was even created, before the YouTube space was
Okay.
instituted, we were out there, making noise. And I know you were out there on 125th.
No, I was forget 125th Street. That's where y'all met me on YouTube. I was with Dr. Clarke. I was with Dr. Leonard Jeffries. I was with ASCAC. I don't count my time on 125th Street except for
And
the
I'm
people.
saying the 125th Street time before YouTube. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
were on the streets. You were in the you were either in the mosque or near the mosque.
Near the
You
mosque.
were allowed to, go to the churches. You were there. There was a time when I remember when just before Dr. Clarke was passing away, and I felt, because when I was trying to get that close to him through the information, I was planning on coming to visit. And I remember when they were, I said, I was going to send a monetary donation, and they were saying, no, send pants or clothes or this and that. When it was coming, I didn't realize it was getting that close before he was about to pass. But I wanted to come up and visit myself. But I know others got a chance. I know you were driving them around. I know said he got to come up there, or he made a way to get up there and get a picture. But I remember that time before YouTube and stuff was going really heavy. But I just want to say your presentation. I think I wish you would do more of these and share any other information that you have. And with the Iceman Inheritance, and I don't mean to be. I apologize for being long-winded, James. I know you're
No.
again. The Iceman Inheritance. I've never read that book in its entirety. I've seen the book. I've seen the preface. I know the information, of course, and a lot of the information.
I'm with Papa.
Go ahead.
A lot of the information I do agree with, as far as I think different behaviors, whether being in the sun culture with food and of readily available, and living in growing up in a culture where there was a lot of snow and ice and it was hard, and people started to say polyandry and polygamy is not real, and monogamy, those three things are made, at least one of those things are made up. But I agree that there are all of them existed in a place and time. But if you would read the foreword that he wrote, I think that would put the icing on the cake if you have the book.
Oh, I have the book. I took elements of Dr. Clarke's statements from the book and put it in the video.
Okay. So I didn't know where that some of the information was coming from. I thought it was coming from other, like, magazine articles or something like that was stated.
No, it was coming from. Let's see if I can find the book documents. If I can find, I read it. While I'm doing that, Pan African James. I don't want to lose Pan African James. What's going on, Pan African James?
Peace, brother Reggie. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you cough, so I knew that you was on. Boy, I'm
No,
here.
I wasn't. No, I mean, I didn't know if my mic was muted or not. So I just had to figure this out, because this StreamYard, man. I mean, but it was the Restream. I can't wait till your subscription is up on this joint. We need to get a donation together to get you off of here.
No, I'm
You
not
know what I
going
mean?
back. Got to get better. I'm not going back on StreamYard.
Oh, really?
No,
It works. It works more functional.
Yeah,
what I'm
so
saying, because I always have a problem on here.
No, you're right. Okay, the technology got to get better, but
yeah. Now, if it gets better, then that's my only critique of it, because I was trying to talk earlier, and and I do maybe need to get a better computer. Maybe that's what's going on.
No.
That's what I'm thinking it is, because any other platform I've never had this issue. But anyway, man,
there's a new platform called Rumble. Do some research on that.
Right.
I don't know, but this is a pay. I mean, you got to pay for these prescriptions. I mean, these subscriptions. So I understand why Reggie's on here. I think he's had a year plan. So you got to do what you got to do. But I was just saying, so we could have a more function.
Because
Right.
he
I'm not,
signified
and I
others.
get it, Reggie. It's more economical, so I get that. But what I'm saying is for functionality for people to come on the show because I
They're
want
not
to
paying
share
me
something.
enough. They're not paying me enough. But go ahead.
But because I want to share something on the show, and I know I'm not going to be able to do it. But at
Why
the
not?
same time, because of the functionality of this platform, not you,
Why?
got
You
nothing to
didn't
do
even
with
try
you.
to share it.
I'm not
Share
going to
it.
try to share because I got a bad computer, evidently, Reggie. So I'm just going to leave that alone. I've done it before. So what I'm going to say is I'll paraphrase because some of the things that you're talking about, these new age type of people are doing, maybe for monetization purposes or whatever's going on. I think they think this is a cute thing to do, and
Well,
I
some of
don't
it is real
really.
criticism. Some of it is acceptable criticism. It's the
No.
people.
None of it's real criticism, Reggie. It's none of it's warranted. Dr. Clarke is a historian. He only went through history to find our history. He didn't lie, and he told the truth. He didn't say that we should be Egyptians. That's what some people try to say. That no, what he did was he said that we should start our history with the chronology of where Africans started. Correct?
Yeah. Well, he teaches to
So
understand
that's
history.
what the premise was. The premise is not that we're Egyptians. We wanted to find African history wherever it started at, and identify from what what our people researched, what other people were claiming as theirs, wasn't actually theirs at all. It was actually African people's in the beginning, and they acknowledged when other people came in the appropriate time. Did they not do that?
They did that. It's just that some African history wasn't recorded until other people came into Africa. So the Amazighi, the King Jupo, a lot of the North African history wasn't recorded. The people of Afri. So we know those by interactions between the
Okay,
Romans
but
and stuff like.
excuse me, Reggie. We're talking later period. It was recorded. The Africans started recording history first, their own history.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean,
And then
I agree with you.
others come in
Yeah.
and assimilate. That's the way that Dr. Clarke is telling the history. They're not saying anything out of line with what the history says, right? And if
No,
you
not Dr.
listen to what he's saying, he's not saying the African Americans. He's not. Dr. Clarke's not saying that we're the actual Egyptians. He's saying that that's a part of the African history that somebody co-opted. That's it. And if anybody could come up with anything that disagreeing with it, then they should provide documentation to prove otherwise. Right?
They should. They have the opportunity to.
They made a position. Diop made a position. The Africans made a position. Once we were allowed to assess the data, we made an assessment of what we thought what it said. We have a right to do that as humans, don't we?
That's correct. That's correct. And at the same time, we need. Yes.
The critiques that these people are the options.
It's probably my streaming service that you can't hear him.
No,
But
I hear you.
Oh man,
It might be on his.
we can hear you. Go ahead.
Like
It
I
might be
said,
on Pan
yeah,
African
it's
There. We can hear you, James. Well, you just went out again.
yeah.
It might be a yes.
Yeah, I hear you now. Not now.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me. That's my position as far as like
Yeah, he keep going in and
I
out.
don't know. Well, let me just leave out, man, because it's
All right.
yeah, it's crazy.
Well, Pan African James, is always a pleasure to talk to you. It's probably on my end, which is restream, and it could be a little bit on your end. And but it's always a pleasure, and I'm sorry it's frustrating. It's frustrating to you, but I had good connections with Jose Francis and Chesmo. I don't so it could be a little bit of both, but I always like to hear what you have to say. So I lost him. So to the audience, you could find Dr. Clarke's The Iceman Heritage. You can actually find it as a PDF, and this is what he says. In this book, The Iceman Inheritance, the Canadian writer Michael Bradley has made some glaring admissions about the Europeans' attempt to dominate the world through racism. There are a large number of books on this subject, but the writers tend to hedge on the subject by inferring that in spite of these atrocities and the racism brought to this world by the Caucasian race, they have given the world some order, some technology, and arts and letters of lasting benefit. What the authors of these books do not take into consideration is that, in spite of the contributions that benefit the world, Europeans, in their attempt at world domination, created a disastrous climate for the world's people. Caucasians, the construct, in general, have an inferiority complex about their world position, right? So you can argue that he's talking about all white people, but he didn't say all white people. Caucasians is those people operating in the scientific construct. If they were secure within their alleged superiority, they would not have to shout it to the world so often and so loudly. When the people feel called upon to repeatedly announce their superiority to the world, it is suspected that behind all that pretense, they do not believe it as much as they want other people to believe they do. In contrast, if the same people believed in the inferiority of the rest of the world, its people and its culture, they would not spend so much time trying to prove their point. Inferior things normally fall into an inferior position and usually stay there without any help from anybody. All of the European laws, lies, manipulations, or religion have not kept most of the non European world in the inferior position the European would have assigned to it. That's Dr. Clarke speaking. Throughout their history, which is short in comparison to the history of other peoples, especially the Africans and the Asians, they have been astute record keepers when it suited their purpose, that they also have been astute record changers. As a result, the Europeans have caused us to read history of the world in their favor. This book has provoked some non Europeans into taking a new view of world history in order to understand how the European people related to non Europeans throughout history. The first thing we learned is that there was no Europe in ancient times. The geographical area that would be later called Europe was not a functioning entity in the world affairs when early civilizations were being developed in the Nile Valley and other river valleys in Africa, and later in Western Asia, now mistakenly called the Middle East, and in mainland Asia in countries like India, China, and later Japan. So, so you can find this if you search the Iceman Inheritance on YouTube. You might find it in archives, uh, and there it goes. Michael Bradley's Iceman Inheritance.
And those seem like well balanced words, not uh, derogatory. It just seemed like historical fact.
Yeah, it's not one way to deal with racism, but he uses the lens of history to deal with racism. And so, to you, for you, Shesmu, let me see if I can pull this up. Oh, I have lots and lots of videos. Stop. Let's share again. Let's share this. I have some personal, but I was never the person really to record myself um, while while I was doing the work. I'm not just one of those people. I wish I would have been more concerned about that. Say 44. Here's me and Dr. Leonard Jeffries at the steps of the Metropolitan Museum.
Peace to the family. I'm with Baba, Dr. Leonard Jeffries Jr., and this is our victory today. This is the African origin of civilization at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. This is history. This is these great scholars' great work and our victory. This book right here, Dr. J told me about civilization of barbarism. Step up.
Civilization of barbarism. This is the victory. Once you have this knowledge, you know who was involved in the origin of humankind. You know who was involved in the development of the multiple civilizations in the Nile Valley. You know who laid the foundation for Greece and Rome. And so this is the great book of Cheikh-Anta in French that I use to translate his legacy. And so we name it and we claim it. And we never backed away from it. We never submitted.
Now, just for the audience, civilization or barbarism, the translation into English, right?
Yes.
Funded by the Black United Fund.
Yes, we got funding from the Black United Fund. The first grant that our brother of the Black United Fund gave was $20,000 to have this book translated. And of course they took him down because he was using the communications too seriously. And they knew how significant it was going to be to have him do what he did. But he didn't hesitate to do it. And interesting enough, Cheikh-Anta Diop and Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakin, our daddy, never got along. And Dr. Ben never wanted to accept Cheikh-Anta Diop because of the white. However, it was in Dr. Ben's office on 125th Street and 7th Avenue that I came back and we needed somebody to complete the work that I had started. And who was in Dr. Ben's office on 125th Street? Brother Nyanenge Geme from the Congo. And it was there that Dr. Ben said, I got the person that can help you. And so these type of connections are made.
And who was also part of the team? Who was the computer person and part of the team?
And we were lucky to have a young man who was trying to do his thing, and his name was Reginald Mabry. But that's not the full name. The full name is Reginald Antoine Mabry.
So, and Dr. John Henrik Clarke was the one who put it all together.
He was the glue that kept the linkage.
His foot on your neck.
Yes, and also he knew how to neutralize Dr. Ben because he was an elder, and Dr. Ben was acknowledged that yes, this is the book by the great brother, the story that's there. This is what is. She had to walk away. But no, this we couldn't have asked for anything better.
Could you believe this in your lifetime? The Metropolitan Museum of Art.
That's right.
With Africa on this side and Egypt on this side, in the middle of the exhibition, using books. You saw the photos?
Yes, right? So it's a fantastic.
Of Africa, of ancient Egypt, and West Africa.
That's right. And we couldn't have planned this. In fact, 1968 was an important year. We had the urban explosions with whatnot. But what was important was Dr. Clarke. And most people didn't realize this little physically limited in size. Dr. Clarke was a short man.
There you go. If you want to see more, I have. So that's Dr. Leonard Jeffries talking about the making of Diop's Civilization on Barbarism. And let's see if I can find something else that's interesting with Dr. Jeffries talking. Let's find out if I can. So yeah, this is how can I say? So these are close quarter family conversations, right? You're not gonna find them on 125th Street. That's not what you're gonna find. You're not gonna find that.
For a minute.
Yes.
For a minute, Reggie. I know you're taller than.
Oh yeah,
sound
well
like
he was
I'm
standing on the steps because he got to be taller than me, huh?
right. At first, when I saw that, Reggie must be a he got to be. Jeffrey's got to be.
No,
I've got a full.
yeah,
So
Dr. Jeffries is a few inches shorter than me, but you know he's grandeur in size, and so he was he's out there lecturing.
Upstairs. What is it about people?
He's out there lecturing to the people going into the Met. This is during COVID, by the way, so he didn't have his COVID ID. He didn't falsify it, so he didn't make it inside. So Dr. Jeffries said, "Oh, okay, no problem. I just lecture to the people on the steps coming up." So that's Dr. Jeffries. What else do you got to say?
People that either they don't know, they don't want to know, that they would minimize.
Jealousy, ignorance is a part of the human equation. The Kemetic tradition has the creator creating two sets, two women, two men. And in the beginning, in this teaching story of the African understanding of the universe, the two brothers, they didn't marry each other, they married the sisters, and one of them, so the teaching story goes, had a child. And that did not create in the other brother the love that an uncle should have had. It created jealousy and envy. And that envy and jealousy finally led to a conflict between brothers and eventually fratricide. So the African story in Kemet begins with understanding that fratricide might be the result if there's jealousy and envy and there's not true love. And so the sisters, however, ripped up differently. They didn't go in conflict with each other or
A set in their head.
They formed a sisterhood of rebirth and resurrection.
And resurrecting both of them.
That's right.
Both of them. Because Set ultimately becomes vindicated. He vindicates himself.
So if we're going to deal with this story, do not narrow it down to where you can control and manage a segment. Look at the deep picture of it. Everybody has modeled that resurrection and rebirth coming out of it.
Next slide is asking test, which is talking about. All right. What called
for African peoples. And he did not want it minimized or ritualized in a way that limited us. And so
here Dr. Jeffries is talking about the Kemetic groups and ritualizing things and Dr. Ben's involvement. If you want to see more of that, like and subscribe. Can everybody like and subscribe my video? Now, I have a meeting to go to on this case. So believe it or not, I got to meet 9 o'clock in my personal life, but it's business. How can I say that? It's just business, and so I'm gonna have to go for to do this work, another revenue stream. Let me just see if I want to show something else. Something else that I can click on. Okay. A lecture by Dr. Jeffries or something in his last 2 minutes. Anyway, while I'm doing this, my Cash App is there. Cash App, Dollar Reginald Mabry. My PayPal is rapmarketing@hotmail.com. Rapmarketing@hotmail.com. Rap like rapper, marketing@hotmail.com. And my Cash App is here. Dollar Reginald Mabry. I'll put it in the chat, and then I'll just show you something else. So I think I have enough videos, and I certainly have enough presentations, right, that I can refashion into videos, right, and I'll probably start doing that on my channel. If you want real information, not just conversations with random people. As it happens, as if they have something to say. People with some real life experience. Here's my Cash App, and my PayPal is PayPal is route marketing. And let's go back to this thing that I was showing. And I have to leave, but here's Dr. Malefi Kite Asante talking. So we can click on that for a second.
Well, I mean, the way we work out our issues, of course, is always by a discussion based on fact. I mean, that's the only thing we can do. And sometimes interpretations are different. People have different opinions. I mean, and when you start talking about Chicam or Medu Neter, there are many different ways of interpreting some things. People sometimes do not know the language, or some people who know the language believe that other people have it incorrect.
So is it one way? Or could Kemet mean several ways, several things in several contexts? Is it the context?
Well, I think it can mean several things in several contexts.
Okay, so that's Dr. Malefi, me talking to Malefi Asante about Kemet. You know, we have these big Kemet conversations. Let's see what else I have. Let's go here. Dr. Jeffries in the car. What's Dr. J talking about in the car?
Peace and power, family. I have Dr. Leonard Jeffries, his wife, Dr. Rosalind Jeffries, and a special guest in the back. And we're on our way to a tribute to Dr. John Henrik Clarke. And I have Dr. J. You don't see him too much on his own Facebook page because his schedule is very, very difficult. And even
politics. And politics, we're not talking about individuals, we're talking about the systems of control and the management and the development of things. But none of that, economics and politics, are the foundation of everything, even the functioning of your body, the cells of your body. 50-year turning points of history. Well, Dr. John Henrik Clarke was the historian, and he looks at the larger flow of history, so he speaks in terms of hundreds of years of history. So we had to compromise on that. My political analysis wedded me to this 50-year turning point. His looking at the flow of history wedded him to a 200-year. Us in the 60s, Marxism evolved into communism and foundations, and they went to San Francisco in June 1945, Nazism and other forms of fascism. America,
I'm skipping.
You had other in their hand. And so after General Operation Crossroads Africa program, because he had gone to school, consciousness of the Europeans or consciousness of misguided folks from the Arab world. There was a big struggle in the Arab world. Gamal Nasser and Naguib had the struggle for Africanized Muslims to have a place in the sun, because they were dominated by those who felt that their role was to link with the white world.
So can you imagine a life when with these guys, Dr. Jeffries, Dr. Clarke? Let's see what he says.
African culture. Let me repeat that. I dedicate this book to the memory of Alioune Diop, his mentor, who died on the battlefield of African culture. Alioune, you knew what you came to do on this earth. A life entirely dedicated to others. Nothing for yourself, everything for others. A heart filled with goodness and generosity. A soul steeped in nobility. A spirit always supreme. Simplicity personified. Did the demerge, did the beginning, want to provide us with an example, an ideal of perfection by calling you into existence. Alas, the terrestrial community to which you knew how to convey better than anyone else the message of human truthfulness that sprang from the innermost depths of your being was deprived of you too soon. But the remembrance of you will never be erased from the memory of African peoples to whom...
He's talking about Cheikh Diop's mentor, Alioune Diop, where Dr. Diop is talking about Dr. Diop is talking about his mentor. So you have these mentor relationships that we gloss over, right? There's checks and balances. I'm just seeing if Rosalind Jeffries has something to say, and then I'm going to go because I'm late. Let's see. I was just trying to figure out. On this video, Dr. Rosalind Jeffries talks for a few minutes, and if it's not this one, but Dr. Jeffries, he gets the. I don't care if it's in a car. Dr. Jeffries, he's gonna lecture. Imagine that. So when I hear young folks, when I hear young folks talking, here's Dr. Rosalind Jeffries speaking.
Special people. We were born blessed, and we have an epigenetic system, a genetic system that goes way, way back. And so that those origins are what make us a very special people, because most of the races of the humankind came out of the African element. The Saint-Trois Innu people were the earliest, the primal people. And so that you see there are two beings, they're just beings, aliens beings and outer space beings, but human beings, that's what we are. And so we are endowed with a specialness from our Creator that we give love. And that's why we were captured by people who needed to know and understanding about real humanness and about humanness that requires giving, caring, and sharing. And so that's how we were caught in the system, because if we were not, America would not have been built on our backs. And so built on our backs meant we had the talent to do all of this. Oh, hear my people, thou shalt love the Lord thy God that created you with all your heart, your soul, your outpouring, and your neighbor as yourself, and your neighbor as yourself, and your neighbor as yourself. The first commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself, but embedded in it is the self, the God self. You have permission to study your history, because that's the self that we're looking at. And that's what John Henrik Clarke was about. The history, bringing it back, regurgitating it back as the falsification of history.
So I mean, and it's interesting in almost all of these commentaries that I'm talking about, they wove in Dr. John Henrik Clarke, right? So my whole thing is, if Henry Louis Gates didn't call him a racist, and you have all of these other scholars praising him, then what I would just say is that we have to kind of relook at what we think is racism. This is I went to a football game. My cousin is on the Bengals. His father was on the Cardinals. So that's that. And I'm here. Where am I? Yeah, I'm at a few places over here. I'm at the in New York, where the South Street Seaport, where they first brought Africans in for the Dutch, and I'm with Brother Fortune, and where else am I? And then we went to the African American Museum, the African Burial Grounds. We went there, and lots of stuff on Kemet.
Can I share?
Uh-huh.
Can I share one, Reggie?
Yeah, sure.
Let's see if this opens.
Open. Sure.
It's trying. Let's see. There we go. Can you? Let's see. What do I do after that? It's uploaded. Can you see it, or can you share it? Do you see it?
I don't see it yet.
I don't see it.
I don't see it yet.
It says bring presentation.
Share.
Upload. Let's see.
Upload. Share.
I did upload it.
It say up. You don't upload it. You share it.
Share it.
Yeah. When you click on the share.
Okay.
Share on the bottom of share screen.
I think that's it.
Okay, share on screen. Okay, so yeah. All right. So yeah, there goes. Are you playing it?
I
Did you
think so.
say? Did you
Is
say
it
share audio? Did you say
no,
do it again?
no, just a photo, just a photo.
Okay, there you go. That's
Okay.
Dr. Leonard Jeffries.
And Shazmu Pata Amun.
Boy, let me blow that up, boy. Man, I got to take a double take on this, man. Without the mustache and beard, boy, you wearing a boy. Garfield is your double, boy. If he shaved this up, boy, man, somebody can mistake you for daggone Garfield, right? I had to take a double take on that because I know Garfield. He don't. But there you go, and there's my Baba right there.
Black excellence.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So you know his size, and so, but that's the living legacy to be with. Uh, Let me see. To have exposure to these great people,
A
right?
living elder. Absolutely. I've spoken to him, privileged to be on Unc's platform and the ability to, I think I spoke to him a few times. And we talked about, so because I listened to his videos and we talked about, what was it? The antithesis.
Yeah, DC's antithesis synthesis. That's
Yeah.
Jeffrey's work.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
all right. So I have to go. I am late. My cash app is Reginald Mabry, Dollar Reginald Mabry. I am glad that Shezmu is with my Baba, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, and maybe I'll string all my videos together and do a TV show, right? Jose Francis, thanks for coming. Let's see. Hello.
I don't know how to stop sharing.
It's okay.
Well,
I'll figure it
well,
out.
Brother Reggie, I
Yes.
want to say thank you for your inspiration because you're making me feel real good right now. You're acknowledging. So I always say, I may not get quantity views, but I get quality views, and that's
Oh,
what
you're
it's
my
all
brother.
about.
So I appreciate it.
You
So
know?
for the rest of you, take part, support your brother Reggie. You got my there's my Cash App, and I try to do better. I try to do better in when I have a slight disagreement, just to do a presentation. I didn't say who made the presentation. I didn't say who made the critique because they my brothers. There's some other people like Chief X I put on a blast all day, every day, but or may not waste my time. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed the show, and I am uh, leaving out.
Peace.
All right, have a good night.